With Ramadan just around the corner, the original plan was to shed light on what we can do to get the maximum benefit out of Ramadan. However, due to recent events, and I'm sure everyone is well aware of what took place on Monday, I felt it was necessary to shed a bit of light Islamically on what took place. And this is due to relevancy and principle. And I feel that it is from khiyana, treachery, if the du'at do not mention and shed light on what needs to have light shed on it. Monday, what we saw was the sanctity of the Maghrib prayer and the sanctity of Muslims be violated, as it was forcefully broken up. And this is probably something which is a shock and a surprise to some, because all of our lives we've heard that Australia is a democratic country, it's a fair country, it's a country where everyone has a fair go. But what we saw was a contradiction to that. And let us analyze, my dear brothers, why. This all took place from the likes of people like Chris Minns, who facilitated for laws to be passed, all for the visit of a Zionist Taghut, Isaac Herzog. So this shows, brothers, that these kafara, not only are they millah wahida, not only are they one religion essentially, but they will even bend and twist their own constitutions, which they think they would hold sacred, in order to please another and a more vile and vicious kafir, which is Isaac Herzog. And through them doing this, they were able to empower people who already, as we're going to see, is the default in them, had animosity towards Islam. But we saw that they were able to violate the Maghrib prayer by forcefully breaking it up and violate the sanctity of our Muslim brothers and sisters. So in today's khutbah, brothers, it's important that we link what happened on Monday to the reality of the kuffar that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us many centuries ago. The first thing He says about the kafara, the first thing that He says as being a default characteristic that they have, He says subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَن تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَن نَصَارَ حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُم. That the Jews and the Christians will never be pleased with you until you follow their way. SubhanAllah, brothers, when we hear these ayats, some of the people, they think that this is only limited to the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the kafara who he was facing sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But no, we all know that the Quran is a revelation which will be recited up until the end of time. So therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He mentions in it is relevant to all places and all times. And what further enforces that is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He used the Arabic word lan, which is a form of negation which is constant. Negation which doesn't stop. So meaning every kafir, and it's not just limited to the Jews and the Christians either, but the default in every kafir is that they will never truly be pleased with you. They will never truly hold you as an equal until you abandon what you're upon and follow what they're upon. And this is the first default. And we're going to link it to what happened on Monday night, with addition to the ayat to come. The next thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says concerning a default that the kuffar have, He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَتَّخِذُوا بِطَانَةً مِّن دُونِكُمْ لا يألونكم خبالا ودوا ما عنتم قد بدت البغضاء من أفواههم وما تخفي صدورهم أكبر قد بينا لكم الآيات إن كنتم تعقلون. O you who believe, do not take as intimates those other than yourselves, for they will not spare you of any ruin. They wish that you would have hardship. Hatred has already appeared from their mouths, but what their breasts conceal is greater. We have certainly made clear to you the signs if you will give reasons. So the next thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala draws our attention to regarding a default characteristic of the kafara is that they will show you some sort of animosity. It could be a gesture at times. Then it can evolve to be a statement. Then it can evolve to be something worse. Link that back to the previous verse that we mentioned. They'll never be pleased with you. So with that being said, it's only natural that some sort of animosity will form. And with that also being said, it's only natural that it's going to be shown. So now going to Monday night, the likes of Chris Minns, the likes of those officers from the New South Wales Police Force, they would have had us animosity towards the Muslims prior to this. But due to them shifting, changing and bending their own constitution, they were enabled to show a bit of that animosity. And the example of that is what they done with the Muslims who were praying the Maghrib prayer. But look at what else Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala draws our attention to in the same verse. وَمَا تُخْفِي صُدُورُهُمْ أَكْبَرُ وَمَا تُخْفِي صُدُورُهُمْ أَكْبَرُ. That what their hearts conceal is far greater and worse. So yes, we've seen a bit. And look at the animosity of Chris Minns. Still till now, he's saying, I'm not going to issue a public apology, even though some Muslims in the community have asked for it. He's showing nerve. Why? وَمَا تُخْفِي صُدُورُهُمْ أَكْبَرُ. That what their hearts conceal is worse. We're seeing a bit now. But could there be a possibility for them to be able to do worse? Absolutely. Because the seed is in their heart. The seed of animosity is in their heart. And a bit has been shown now. So wallahu alam, what is to come tomorrow. And don't think it's far-fetched. We thought it was far-fetched. We thought that probably what happened would never happen in our time and in our locality, but it happened. So what is stopping something far greater and worse from happening, especially after knowing the default characteristics that the kuffar have? Also, my dear brothers, we know that from time to time, and especially the kuffar politicians, what they'll do is they'll come and engage with the Muslim community. Come for visits to the mosque. Come and have iftar with leaders. Come and attend the Eid gatherings and so forth. But the animosity is still there. And they're only doing this for their own maslahah, for their own personal gains, to increase the numbers of votes. Because democracy is a numbers game, brothers. It's not about principle. It's a numbers game. This is why they do this. The animosity is still there, even though at times they may not show it. And this isn't me coming to this conclusion. Rather it is Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala who says, ها أنتم أولئك تحبونهم ولا يحبونكم وتؤمنون بالكتاب كله وإذا لقوكم قالوا آمنا وإذا خلوا عضوا عليكم الأنامل من الغيظ قل موتوا بغيظكم إن الله عليم بذات الصدور. Here you are, showing them love while they do not love you. And when they meet you, they say, we believe. And subhanAllah, analyze, especially these politicians, analyze some of these kafara when they've got a maslahah. They'll come, we've got a common ground with Muslims. We're tolerable towards Muslims. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inform us of? وَإِذَا خَلَوْا عَضُّوا عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَنَامِلَ مِنَ الْغَيْظِ. That when they are not with you, out of their hate and animosity for you, they bite their fingertips. Meaning that they hate you deeply. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seals this glorious ayah and He says, Mutu bi ghaydikum. Die in your rage. Inna Allaha alimun bi dhati sudur. That verily Allah is all knowing of what the hearts conceal, of the animosity that is being shown and what is yet to be shown. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بما فيه من الآيات والذكر الحكيم أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروا إنه كان غفور رحيما. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. So after this being mentioned, and the reality is we could go further, but due to time we have to cap it somewhat. So after this being mentioned, always keep in your mind the default of the kafara that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed us of in His glorious book. Yes, on Monday it was an unnecessary and a forceful breakup and a violation of the Maghrib prayer and a violation of the sanctity of Muslims. Tomorrow, what could it be? As we said, could Monday be the start of something greater? Perhaps. It could be the breakup and dismantling of whatever we're allowed to make apparent and shown as Muslims in this country. Wallahu a'lam. They all done this, why? Once again, to cater for one of the greatest tyrants, one of the greatest tawaghit in this time, the Zionist pig, Isaac Herzog. They bended and they twisted their own constitution, which you think they would hold sacred, but all for what? To please their master. So what makes you think that they would hesitate in the slightest to try and alter what we have of our deen? Imagine reciting Surah Al-Fatiha is a right today where we say غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, not those who earn your wrath. It's a right today, but could it be anti-Semitism tomorrow if people like this see fit? Despite that all being said, and despite that being the reality, I sealed the khutbah by reminding myself and you, my brothers, to not despair, to always have reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even if the trials are to get greater, know that the outcome is always for the people of taqwa. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Do not be weakened and do not be sad, for verily you are superior if you're truly believers. And He also says subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَاصْبِرْ إِنَّ الْعَاقِبَةَ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Be patient, for verily the best and end outcome is for the muttaqeen. And I seal the khutbah by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of the muttaqeen in the month of taqwa, Ramadan. Ameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim fil alameen innaka hamidun majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad.